Circumstances I don't recall, my father, a man whose grim perfectionism prevented him from completing anything, had decided to teach me everything about the game of chess. His method was to emulate one player's game as closely as possible and move on to another. Diagrams were drawn on graph paper, long passages from library books presented as original thought. Move by move, we reenacted the 1977 match between Victor Korchnoi and Boris Spassky, a match notorious for Spassky's use of psychological gamesmanship. My father, as Spassky, refused to come to the board, making me sit and wait. On return, he produced a letter, a typed reproduction of Spassky's letter, stating his objections to the configuration of the room. He wouldn't play until it was changed. This is stupid, I said. My father checked his notes to see if this indeed was in Korchnoi's transcript. My mother appeared over his shoulder, able to spot from some distance the way color rose in the nape of his neck when he was agitated. Douglas, she said, snapping her fingers in his ear, even grandmasters need to eat. My father just stared at me. Nothing stupid about it, he said. He pointed to his airplane. It's a complex game we're playing. I got up to leave, and he threw his hands in the air. Are you resigning? Then, in a tone I'd heard many times before, are you quitting on me? I realized he would never be happy. My mom knew this too. Within a month, they had separated. For the rest of my life, I avoided him, and as far as I was concerned, he me. Opportunities were there. He lived in the next town over, but he existed only in other people's sightings. At the bank, in the parking lot of Aldi, with a woman who was not my mother. My nearest contact was a photograph of a much younger him, on a motorcycle, looking distracted, that I occasionally produced to explain some fault of my own. Some 40 years on, a lawyer called me home from my northeastern outpost. At 85, my father was getting a divorce. I told the lawyer he must be joking. He demurred, said it was no joke. My father had a number of small holdings in the house my mother lived in. He wanted it all. In the old limestone courthouse, on a rainy December day, my father ended his marriage to my mother. Mom, not altogether with it, sat through the whole thing as if the proceedings had nothing to do with her. My father was unrecognizable. Large glasses covered his face, and the shoulders of his coat were snowed with dandruff. He weighed no more than 100 pounds. The sight of him got me thinking of what to say to close the distance of all those years. Someday soon, it might be too late. He and the doctor, vouching for his competency, were the only people called before the judge. In questioning, our lawyer asked about me, his son. Son, he said. He knew I was in the room. It didn't take long for him to find me. He looked at me for several moments with a faint smile on his lips. Behind his glasses, his eyes were cold, alert. No, he said, turning to the judge, then back to me. No, son. It was the response I'd more or less asked for. He gave it, ending something we'd started long ago. The judge gave my mom the house she'd lived in for 50 years. Everything else went to my father.